Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 10th, 2023 school board meeting. Let's see. Everybody please silent your cell phones for everybody that's in the audience. Let's see. Oh, flag salute. Ella Walsh, will you lead us in the flag salute, please? Thank you. No, just stand up here. Just.
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. That was great. I have nothing to report out of closed session. May I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is your mic on? Oh, it is. Okay. Any questions on the agenda?
I'm just so soft
Hearing,
spoken.
that's you. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Student, do you approve of tonight's agenda?
Aye.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Angela, did you say aye?
Oh, aye.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, now can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 26th meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Student, do you approve the minutes?
Aye.
Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain as I was not there.
Thank you very much. Staff Board Communication, Dr. Stepp.
Madam President, members of the board, a couple updates. First off, Poker Night, the foundation hosted their first ever poker tournament. They had 70 participants, brought in a gross of over $20,000. I talked to the president, Mark Madnick, just before the board meeting. He was thrilled with the event, thrilled with the participation. It was a different group than they get to some of their events, you know, the poker player crowd, and was very thrilled with how it all went. So appreciate them, and super excited that their events continue to grow in success, popularity, and engagement. Next up, Great Shakeout. We're back, and we will be participating. Las Virgenes, every school will be participating. It's October 19th, so we will be conducting drills. There's a very specific time. I think it's 10 sometime a.m. 10:19. 10:19 makes sense. 10:19 on 10:19. So we will be doing that. We will be having drills, and we are most likely going to be doing one of our practice evacuations of an elementary school site onto a secondary school as well. And next slide. We had Senator Ben Allen visit us recently. It was a joy to have him in the office, accompanied with two of our board members, Ms. Stein and Ms. Gaines. He spent over an hour with us, had a ton of time, and was a great advocate for public education. As we all know, he was a board member on Santa Monica Malibu Unified, so we had a really good sense for what is going on in our schools. We also shared with them our concerns about 1699, which the governor did veto. So we're very excited about having 1699 vetoed. And I believe Senator Allen was also a no vote on 1699 from my memory. So excellent to build relationships up with him and spend some time explaining to him, because we are new. We are all redistrict. Everyone in Las Virgenes was redistricted. Our congressperson was changed, our assembly members were changed, and our state senator. So, next slide. We also participated, all of our schools participated in National Walk to Schools Day. On the left, I was with Principal Logan and Mayor Pro Tem Elise Buckley-Weber. At Sumac was a blast. On the right is a shot from Bay Laurel. Bay Laurel, Dr. Duncan crushed it and had amazing participation. A lot of fun. Also, a number of our admin team participated in AXA's Women in School Leadership Forum. Tiffany Reynolds and Dr. Duncan were presenters as well. I believe they were presenting on building positive culture, and they were fantastic. I do have some show and tell as well, and those two ladies also made the very cover of the EdCal magazine, which is our magazine for all administrators across California. I'll pass that on down. Next slide. Hidden Hills Parade. The normalcy feels terrific. Things are back to normal. Hidden Hills and Adobe recently had their parades. We had great representation from Las Virgenes. The band was there, and a huge turnout from Round Meadow staff. Those are a bunch of teachers with Principal Exner. She's towards the right behind the two dogs. And that was awesome. Great representation. Saw a former board member, Miss Wasserman, and a number of council members as well, and they did appreciate us being there. And next slide. This is a fun one. Principal Garrett Lepisto, as I think just about everyone knows, is a graduate from Agora. And recently at a football game, I think 2 weeks ago, he was inducted, along with his brother, I believe that's his brother next to him, into the Agora High School Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Principal Lepisto for that recognition.
It's their Sports Hall of Fame, right?
I believe so. This is a fun one. Always fun to share data. So as we've repeatedly shared, and I'll share tonight, a back to normalcy, a focus on academics, a focus on attendance, a focus on the basics. And so a year ago, we issued the challenge to increase our attendance. And we have succeeded. In just the past year, 12 months, our attendance has gone up on an average of 3.03% per school site. You can see the individual numbers right there. Every school site going up with significant gains, which is awesome. Our auditors didn't believe us. They thought that they've never seen a school district have every school improve. We went from around a 93 coming out of the pandemic, about 93% attendance, backed up to where we normally are, high 96s, 97s. So super exciting. The equivalent is, over a year, the equivalent is 303 students in classroom. It's like half an elementary school, which essentially represents $3 million. And so we talk about behavior and socializations and social emotional wellness and academic achievement. This is a great way and a great step in the right direction. We thank our principals, thank our staff for taking all of that seriously. Next up, I do my lunches with students, and so I've got out to 2 middle schools. Top left, Lindero Canyon with Principal Anholt. Bottom right, A right with Principal Foley. Was a blast to talk to the students. We talked about bell schedules, safety, wellness, academics, math adoptions, all that kind of stuff. It's a joy to sit there and listen to the students and their perspective on how things are going. They really are a blast. The future is bright with these youngsters heading out into it. I think that is all I have, Madam President. We do have someone to welcome to the team if you want to join me at the podium. All right, Madam President, members of the board, it is my pleasure to welcome Diane Richmond. She's going to be our program coordinator for special education. Her first day was yesterday. So we're super thrilled to have her on the team. She was part of our staff development training yesterday. She's got 15 years experience as a school psychologist. She was with South Pasadena with Total Educational Solutions. Prior to that, she was a school psychologist at Burbank Unified. She's got a master's in educational psychology from Loyola Marymount and a bachelor's in psychology from University of Colorado Boulder, which is Coach Prime territory, allegedly. She is currently an adjunct lecturer for Cal State University Los Angeles for their Division of Special Education as well. And she has a student at A. Wright and a student at Round Meadow Elementary. We are thrilled to welcome her to the team. No one in this room is more excited than Ms. Falk.
Hi, Diane. Officially, we want to welcome you. The board wants to welcome you to the Las Virgenes Unified School District. We are thrilled to have you with all of your experience and your kindness and your caring for our special ed students. So here's a pin. You can pin yourself. Okay, and as I always say, now you're going steady with Las Virgenes, and we hope you have a long and wonderful relationship with us. Thank you. Want to say a few words?
Madam President and members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very excited to be in LVUSD and very excited to be working with Angie. So I'm looking forward to the school year as a whole. Thank you.
Welcome.
And we'll continue with staff communication with Mr. Klein.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, tech team has been very busy the last few weeks. Just yesterday we had the big staff development day, and as you know, there's a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that needs to be done to make the systems work and keep people supported, help people with presentations. And we gave quite a few presentations actually ourselves over the past few days. I'm very proud of the team. I've done a great job over that. And this morning we did one of the largest testing sessions we've ever done by launching the PSAT in Calabasas High School with over 800 kids. It was quite an endeavor. Quite an effort. We had the whole tech team practically on campus to make sure that that went smoothly, and I'm pleased to report that we had a good, smooth session today. Looking forward to another smooth session tomorrow at AHS.
Ms. Chambers.
Madam President, members of the board, I have two updates to share with you this evening. First, recently LVCA sent out the tentative agreement to be voted on by its members, and it was ratified at 95.8%. So we'll be bringing the tentative agreement forward to the board at the next meeting in October on the 24th. Also wanted to share an update. We hosted a successful staff development day yesterday for our classified staff at Agora. So we started the day with a welcome, appreciations, and updates by Dr. Stepanowski and our board president, Ms. Stein. And then our classified staff had the opportunity to participate in different breakout sessions and a presentation on their superhero powers and how it contributes overall to a positive culture. Then ended the day with a 5x10 TED Talk on different leadership books. We sent out a survey this morning on feedback and overall very overwhelmingly positive on the day. Wanted to share some shout outs as well to the DO and LVCA Planning Committee of Elaine Gottfried-Ullman, Jan Gill, and then Valerie Louthian, Laura Jakin, and Jesse Sweeney as well.
Ms. Davenport.
Madam President, members of the board, the elementary grade level leads met for their very first meeting of the year last week, in the last week of September, rather. One lead teacher from each grade per school, plus some the counselors, academic specialists. There were about 70 of us in the room. We provided updates about our instructional priorities this year, and then with the elementary principals as our facilitators for each group, we met in grade levels to give input on and discuss a variety of topics. It was a really great time of listening and sharing with each other, and our next grade level leads meeting will be at the end of November. And secondly, Ed Service was very excited to launch the first of its 3 staff development days for certificated staff yesterday. So happy to report that attendance was excellent. Almost all of the elementary schools had 100% or very close to 100% of their certificated staff attend yesterday's staff development day. They met on their respective school sites. They met in whole groups for sessions on ruler and math instructional practices, and then in smaller groups to discuss various topics as they were relevant: CASP interim assessments, writing calibration, VAPA, TK pilot materials, 4-5 science met, and of course our counselors met around No Place for Hate. Overall, much of the feedback was appreciative for the chance to be with their colleagues at their school sites, and we look forward to creating opportunities for staff from the different schools to meet together and work with each other for our next staff development day in January.
Ms. Patterson.
Madam President, members of the board, we had a wonderful secondary staff development day yesterday. Our middle school teachers met at AC Stell Middle School. Our high school teachers met at Calabasas High School. We just so carefully planned. All of our high school administrators and middle school administrators helped department chairs facilitate in content areas, and teachers collaborated in creating 2 years' worth of goals and action items for their content teams, which we can certainly link to our LCAP this year. We had wonderful attendance, just really exciting for them to be together. The feedback has been tremendous that they enjoyed their time together, and we're just thankful for that time and looking forward to January, when in the afternoon the middle school and high school teachers will come together to think about transition in all of the content areas.
Dr. Gleason.
And,
Oh, very sorry.
And as Jim Klein remarked, we had a wonderful PSAT experience today at Calabasas. And next slide. We had 872 10th and 11th graders who were registered. Attendance was amazing. Only 76 10th and 11th graders were absent, and only 71 9th or 12th graders were absent. Our PSAT participation rate was 92%, which will give us some very robust ELA and math data for our 10th and 11th graders. Also, the freshman and senior activities were fun, informative, and well received. And lastly, I just wanted to make a shout out to all of our high school staff and administrators who come out and chaperone dances for our high school students. 2 weeks ago, we had the Agora homecoming dance, and that's a live action shot from their quad. And the next picture is our Calabasas quad, which was also hopping with activity. Both schools had over 800 students attend. Neither school had a single disciplinary action resulting from the dance, so it was nothing but fun and frolics for both events, and that's something to be really proud of. Our teenagers are remarkable. They're smart, and they're fun, and they're happy to be back out again.
Thank you.
And with all those juniors taking that PSAT, we hope to have a whole bunch of them receive National Merit Scholar recognition next year. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, not much to update other than we just cemented or finalized the ink on our application for our CTE incentive grant, which is a $1.8 million grant application. And our hope is, as we have had success in the prior fiscal years, that we are able to be fully funded and continue growing our amazing CTE programs at our high schools.
Dr. Seifert.
Madam President, members of the board wanted to congratulate our staff on a truly outstanding day of professional development yesterday. Picture in the upper left is our high school English department. Those are my people up there. It was wonderful to see the teacher leadership, I would say, all across the board for elementary and secondary. Picture on the right is our outstanding office manager team at the classified PD session. All of it was held at Agora High School. Truly off the charts as far as positivity, positive climate, and things of that nature. And also wanted to give a big shout out to our team that really put it on. So up here on the dais, Hallie Chambers, Kim Patterson, Jenna Davenport. Awesome job all across the team for a very successful day yesterday.
Ms. Falk.
Madam President, members of the board, the community-based instruction class at Calabasas High School is growing a garden with the help of a professional farmer who's come out to show the kids how to plant. We're planting lettuce, we're planting beans, we're planting carrots, and he's also showing us how to keep our native critters out of our garden. So if you ever go over at the campus, it's down by the cafeteria area in the lower section there. It's a pretty robust garden, and I'm really excited for the kids who will be using that food to go into our kitchen to make a lunch for themselves one day.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
That concludes staff communication.
Thank you very much. Ms. Walsh?
Madam President, members of the board, Agora and Calabasas have both been very busy these last couple of weeks, mostly with activities related to homecoming. The pep rally at Agora included a fashion competition and a volleyball game where the girls' volleyball team versus the football boys. I believe the football boys won. Agora's homecoming dance itself was September 30th and was themed Red Carpet Ready. There was a Kona ice truck and carnival food such as pretzels and popcorn, as well as lawn games, a DJ, and a photo booth. Mock trial has concluded interviews for the team, which will compete in February. Agora also participated in Reyes Adobe Days and won an award for Best High School Participation.
Yay.
Upcoming events include a pancake breakfast for seniors provided by the PFC tomorrow, the UCLA Blood Drive, and Agora Improv Second Match of the Year this Friday from 7 to 9 in the Black Box. We also have Casma pie sales as well as a cultural luncheon to celebrate Global Diversity Month. At Calabasas, they had a blood drive where students volunteered to donate blood. Also, freshman ASB elections were completed after a week of campaigning, so they now have 3 new freshman officers. Feel Good Friday hosted a nutrition activity in which students could get balloon animals made by students in ASB. Calabasas also had their Something Yellow game, and the pack was full of participation. This past week, Calabasas had a Spirit Week with dress-up weeks such as Matching Monday, where students could twin with their friends, Tired Tuesday, where students could wear pajamas to school, and Western Wednesday, where students wore their best Western attire. We concluded the week with a pep rally on Friday with dance routines, games, and a sports run-through. They also had a football game with the theme Whiteout, and on Saturday night, Calabasas had its annual homecoming with the theme Old Hollywood. And today, as was previously mentioned, the juniors and sophomores took the PSAT, seniors had breakfast together, and upcoming are football games, a fall music concert, and more.
Wow, our high schools are busy. Thank you very much. Mrs. Gaines?
I have also been at Calabasas football games and attended the Something Yellow evening there, and it was really beautiful cause, and some of the students who spoke very eloquently about the cause. Attended Finance Committee, and just want to mention that Ms. Mangus and I attended the committee, and that the auditors are coming, and we have a date to meet with them in November. And on a side note, Dr. Gleason, I would like to say that having spent
prior years on finance. I very much appreciate your positive attitude where we focused on cuts prior to this. You make a deliberate effort to focus on revenues, and that's really a welcome change. So thank you for that. Then, on another note, if I can get through this, just as in the past few months, my prayers have been with the people of Ukraine. Thank you. In light of recent events, my prayers and my heart is with Israel. Nothing can justify the terror and the brutality that is happening in Israel. I want to thank Dr. Stepp for sending out an email to our community, reminding them to reach out for support if they need it, because many in our community have ties to Israel. I have a cousin who serves in the IDF and is on the Gaza Strip right now. And I know, and thank you for the district, I know we've introduced some no-hate programs trying to educate our students about tolerance and acceptance and of all different cultures. And just my prayer for peace in Israel and throughout the Middle East. I also want to mention that 2 of our Calabasas City Council members, David Shapiro and Alicia Weintraub, are organizing a night of solidarity, and that's this Thursday, October 12th, from 6 to 7 p.m. in the plaza outside of Calabasas City Hall.
Thank you, Mrs. Gaines, for that heartfelt wishes, and many of us will be attending the Calabasas Solidarity event, so thank you for that. Mrs. Gaines? Mrs. Cudbill, and you're the one
okay.
that was out of town, and I'm the one that's
I'm
looking
going to,
at you going,
because
who
I've been
are you?
away, I'm going to
Mrs.
forgo
Cudbill.
comments tonight. Thank you.
Mrs. Menges.
Good evening. I want to take a minute to talk about that. We had a city schools meeting, and Ms. Stein and I attended that. And for those of you who don't know what that is, every 3 times a year we meet with the cities of Agoura Hills, Westlake Village, Lost Hills Sheriff Station, the principals of Lindero, Agoura Hills, and White Oak, and just communicate with each other with what's going on in the community and what our plans and hopes are. And it's a great time for us to touch base, what rumors are going on out there, and to make sure that we aren't stepping on each other's toes with anything that we're planning. And in that vein, the city of Westlake Village is having their 21st annual city celebration, and that's coming up this Saturday from 3 to 8. The school of White Oak Elementary always has their family fun fair at this celebration, and there's a lot of fun and dancing, and there's a beer and wine garden, and it's open to the community, so feel free to go. It's at Westlake City Hall.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence.
I will forgo my comments tonight.
Okay, then I'm going to finish it up by saying that Mrs. Menges and I had an opportunity to visit Lupin Hill to check in on the TK students, our brand new youngest students, and to spend some time. Oh, that's my picture at Willow. Not there yet, but spend some time, go back to the first one, Mr. Klein. Spend some time getting to know Dr. Marzouk, who was the new principal this year, so that was really fun. It's always so much fun to visit our schools. As you can see, I'm having so much fun there. I'm participating. I also did a visit at Willow. And so this is the VAPA teacher at Willow, and I'll bet you nobody up here knows what those are actual instruments. I bet you nobody knows what they're called. I only had to ask 3 times to write it down once. They're called, what? How do you know that? Yes, that was so much fun. Except, and this is our second grade. No, kindergarten, first grade. This is a kindergarten, first grade class, and it's only at the beginning of October. They were right on all these notes, and then there was me off on the notes. But it was so much fun. I just love being out at our schools. So thank you. And they had an assembly. I was there on Assembly Friday. And to what Dr. Stepp reported, give a huge shout out to all of our principals for the attendance work that they're doing, because they have a whole attendance cheer at Willow, which I'm sure is done at every one of our schools. So taking pride in our parents in our community value education, value their children being in school. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Oh, Mrs. Mingus and I attended the Agora Hills signature event, which is Night at the Adobe. That was last Friday night, and that was wonderful to get out and see so many people from the Agora Hills area. And last but not least, I also want to thank Ms. Chambers, Ms. Davenport, Ms. Patterson for the Staff Development Day. I believe this is really our first kind of traditional one since COVID, very well attended. It was wonderful to see the many exciting, to read and see what you did for the many exciting modules that you did. So great to have this professional development for our staff. While everybody else was, off doing whatever, our staff was working hard and learning. So with that, I'll conclude staff board communication. Thank you. I have 3 speaker cards for items not on the agenda. When I call your name, please come up, state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak. At the 1 minute mark, you will hear a ding, and that's just to give you a 1 minute advance warning. So first up is David Albert. Yes, when he's coming up. And just to let you know, since these are items not on the agenda, we cannot engage with you. We cannot have a dialogue with you or discuss it. We can clarify. Yeah. Mr. Klein, it says 5 minutes on my thing. We have 3 minutes? It's stuck. Okay, somebody have a stopwatch?
He's not going to go more than 3 minutes, I can tell.
I won't go over 3.
Right, they're not, these are items not on the agenda.
I'll type for you. Things we should be testing before meetings. 3 minutes.
We are MacGyvering this.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. My name is David Albert. I am a parent of a student here at LVUSD. I'm here to raise my concern about the contract you entered into with Covered 6 security firm in September of 2022. Let me begin by saying I have been aware of Covered 6 for some time now, going back to last year when I first began to learn of the firm and their co-founders, Bryce Eddy and Chris Dunn. I first encountered Bryce Eddy at a contentious CVUSD school board meeting on June 21st of 2022. Bryce was there overseeing a coordinated attack on the school board led by Rob McCoy and various other Conejo Valley far-right extremists intent on intimidating and bullying the district's LGBTQ students, parents, teachers, board members, and allies. Myself and over 100 other community members showed up to support these kids and the school board. For this, we were and continue to be targeted by Bryce Eddy and his cohort, publicly labeling us as groomers, pedophiles, and agents of Satan. With a little more investigation, I soon discovered who Chris Dunn is and about his ties to Rob McCoy, the pastor of Godspeak Calvary Chapel, a Christian nationalist church in Newbury Park. In an interview from October 2022, the 3 of them can be heard expressing their apocalyptic fear-mongering views about the pandemic and BLM riots. You can hear Chris saying, we're talking about a socialist anarchy. They're going door to door now, leaving night notes. This is what every Marxist country does before it gets overthrown, saying if you socialize with the enemy, we're going to come burn you down. And just recently, I learned that Cover 6's security personnel are being trained by an anti-government extremist named John Pito, a former Marine who is part of the 3%er militia movement. If you aren't aware, the 3%ers have been active since 2008, but most recently in reaction to and staunch opposition to a range of issues, including attempts to pass state-level gun control measures, state-imposed restrictions, and lockdowns to prevent the spread of coronavirus, and the protests that took place around the country over the May 2020 killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Just recently, members of the movement have also been charged in the January 6th Capitol attack. These are the kind of people Covered 6 is employing. So you can imagine the shock and disappointment I felt a few months ago when I first began seeing Covered 6 security vehicles roaming the streets past my child's school. So I'm here seeking some answers to the robustness of LVUSD's vetting process and the apparent lie Chris Dunn told you about Bryce Eddy's involvement.
Okay.
And where we go from here.
Thank
I
you.
trust that you will take my concerns seriously.
Thank you very much. We will.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up is Kelly, and I cannot read the writing, Selenite. If you'll please state your name, and so I can hear it properly.
Kelly Selenite.
Thank you.
Hi, did my time start? Okay. I'm here to talk to the board about Covered 6 as well. I'm here to speak about my concerns with Bryce Eddy and his affiliation with the district's private security company, Covered 6. You see, I grew up here in LVUSD, and I attended your wonderful schools from 3rd grade to 12th. Go Chargers. And I now live in the Conejo Valley, and my children go to school there. But when I heard Covered 6 was involved with my childhood school district, my ears perked up immediately. See, Bryce Eddy has been involved in a years-long destructive campaign against inclusion for LGBTQ children in the Conejo Valley School District, even going as far as to call this community satanic and mentally ill. Even more alarming, Eddy was part of an anti-LGBTQ protest group at our CVUSD school board meeting, June of last year, with the security team, far-right extremists, and members of Godspeed Calvary Church, who are harassing LGBTQ parents and yelling groomer at people who are there to advocate for diversity and inclusion. I see your No Hate, No Place for Hate newsletters that came out at Lindero. That's amazing. And I read your district's equity policy. Bryce Eddy's actions and rhetoric do not align. On another note, on August 29th, the board signed and approved a contract between the Las Virgenes School District and Covered 6 to provide armed security services at campuses district-wide. This contract states that services from Covered 6 will be funded from Prop 56, which is known as the Tobacco Grant Program. Recently, the California District Attorney Office was asked to review this contract and ascertain whether or not Covered 6 is able to provide the services that Prop 56 requires to qualify for these funds. The district attorney responded as follows, or his office did. The Tobacco Grant Program would provide reimbursement to a grantee who contracted with a private security company as long as that company was able to perform the specific tobacco-related activities specified in the approved grant awarded. They also added, the Tobacco Grant Program did not approve the LVUSD school district's request for armed security guards with Covered 6 security services. Per Rob Bonta's office, the California Attorney General's office, the elected LVUSD school board members may be implicated in potential fraudulent use of these funds to pay for a contract that is associated with a white Christian nationalist who espouses hateful rhetoric towards the LGBT community, considering you've already signed a contract. I'm sending an email to each board member so that you can look at all the evidence of everything that I went over in this form. And there's monumental proof of Bryce Eddy's involvement with Covered 6 as a vice president, a co-founder, along with additional documentation of the Attorney General's responses, and more hateful rhetoric that Eddy's podcast showcases. And I hope there's a way that this board can remedy the sticky situation, because I really do love this school district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My last speaker, our last speaker is Reverend Ingram.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Reverend Dr. Kirby Ingram. I'm a proud Las Virgenes parent and a minister at a local interfaith spiritual center. I'm here to express my concerns also about armed guards at our high schools and the company Covered 6 that's been contracted with performing security at all Las Virgenes schools. I have 3 points. And all the communications about increasing safety at our schools, which I really appreciate, not once was the idea of having guards patrolling our campuses with lethal weapons where it was brought to the attention of us parents. I fully disagree with these decisions, and if the parent body would have been informed about this and given the ability to weigh in, I'm confident that a large percentage would also agree, or would also disagree with the decision. Point 2. The problem I see with hiring a company like Covered 6, armed with lethal weapons, that's established by extremists, most likely associates with others of like mind and also hires such individuals, basically putting lethal weapons on the job and putting lethal weapons and the job of guardianship into the hands of individuals who carry the same hateful prejudices. What stops these guards from profiling, harassing, and targeting our kids, effectively putting them in greater danger? My third point is this. After meeting briefly with Mr. Stepanowski at a recent community interfaith meeting, which was lovely, I was assured that he was assured that Bryce Eddy had nothing to do with Covered 6 and that Covered 6 wasn't a problem. I'm sorry, but Las Virgenes School District has been lied to. Covered 6 recently decided to pull out of a lucrative contract with the city of Santa Monica rather than providing proof that there was no affiliation with Eddy. So I urge you, not only as a parent, but as a spiritual leader in this community, to take a deeper look into Covered 6 and to reconsider doing any business with them. In a community that upholds the values of love and inclusivity, and a school district that pledged the same in 2020 with an official policy, we should never, ever put power in the hands of those who would see the death of diversity and freedom of expression. I trust that Las Virgenes School District will do the right thing here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, we cannot enter into a dialogue. Dr. Stepanowski, is there any kind of clarifying comments you'd like to make here?
Sure, I think we could talk funding, certainly at a minimum. I think the agenda item was an error. We are not using any Prop 56 funding on Covered 6 at all. Dr. Gleason, did I miss anything there?
Yes, as this board knows very well, but for the community, we had tried to spend Prop 56 money on anti-tobacco efforts for several years, trying to engage with Lost Hills Police Department as well as LA Police Department. When we did reach out to Covered 6, it was our intent to ask for their support with sting operations, but the Department of Justice did not allow that as an allowable use of funding. So I say all that to say, when you pull those documents, and of course they are public documents, you'll see that the only reimbursement was for education from the Department of Justice. And it's unfortunate because we could have used a larger portion of that award for this very real epidemic of vaping that is affecting kids. So funding has been directed as aligned to the grant plan, and we've been in contact with the Department of Justice more times than I can count.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you want to address? No?
Happy to answer any questions. The board has questions.
Nope. Thank you very much. Clarifying
Yeah,
question?
It was the sheriff's department's recommendation that we have armed. Well, this was in coordination with the sheriff's department and our law enforcement advisors who came in. I don't want to make any judgment calls about the company we've chosen, but the concept of whether or not to go armed or not, this was not a willy-nilly decision by the board. It was something that was discussed. I know it was discussed in this meeting because I remember talking about it. But also, it was at the recommendation. Can you maybe fill in those little gaps?
Sure, yeah, Dr. Gleason mentioned it. I mean, we had the Prop 56 funding for 5 years, and we tried to essentially purchase additional time with deputies. The Sheriff's Department, for cities that don't have their own police department, and none of our 4 cities have, the Sheriff's Department allocated an hourly basis of deputies, so cities will buy them for hour blocks. So we tried to do the same thing to augment the security we had. For 5 years, we struck out. We got close sometimes. We worked with other law enforcement agencies as well. But the reality for the Lost Hills Sheriff Station is there's 16 to 18 staff down, which isn't their fault or lack of funding, it's the academy. The pipeline is too small. So Captain C2 said, strongly recommended we go this route. We did an RFP, and the Sheriff's Department participated in our screening of the applicants, and here we are. So yeah, Covered 6 was strongly, this process and procedure, this addition was strongly recommended by the Sheriff's Department, and they were part of our screening process as well.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Proceeding on, may I have a motion to approve consent A?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Student, are you in favor of all the items on consent A?
Aye.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0 with the student. Consent B is just a board vote, employee
I'll make a
personnel.
motion to approve consent B.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And moving right along to action items, we move to our first one, which is approval of variable term waiver permit. Dr. Stepanowski.
Dr. Seyfrieds.
Madam President, members of the board, this variable term waiver permit can be granted when the candidate has the appropriate degree in a specific subject area. In this instance, actually, we just had the chance to meet Diane Richmond, who holds a bachelor's and master's degree in educational psychology, as well as a PPS credential. Ms. Richmond is enrolling in our Center for Educational Excellence administrative program in January.
I'll make a motion to approve the variable term waiver permit.
Terrific. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Straightforward.
Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. Student, do you approve of the term waiver?
Aye.
Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Thank you very much. Next one is the Memorandum of Understanding between Las Virgenes Unified School District and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for access to and use for surveillance cameras. Dr. Stepanowski.
Madam President, members of the board, this is the second time this item is back before the board, having made changes to the contract. Captain C2 with Lost Hills Sheriff has secured the funding for an emergency response center to coordinate response to any sort of challenge or threat to public safety. She was captain at Lost Hills when Woolsey Fire happened, and we all remember at well. So she's assembling resources to support the area, the 5-city region, which Lost Hills supervises or manages or secures. That's our 4 cities, including the city of Malibu. She has asked, as part of that, to, in the emergency, in circumstances of emergency, have access to our video cameras, which are outward-facing in public spaces where no one would have an expectation of privacy. We made some adjustments to the MOU. There are 2 changes I want to make on the dais.
Okay.
And that is my fault. I wasn't clear enough with our attorneys who reviewed it. We have attorneys from ASCIP and attorneys from F3, and so I wasn't quite clear in it. So the first correction, Ms. Falk has provided you with corrected copies at your station. There should be highlighted in yellow and struck out. So the first correction, they're relatively simple corrections, but the first one is at 2C.
These are my biggies, so I'm glad you got to them.
Sorry, say that again.
So
Correction.
2C is the first area of correction. Do you have the copy in front of you?
Yeah.
Ms. Cutbill, so 2C, so that is the district contact persons. This is the people who would authorize the Lost Hills to have access to our cameras, and it'll be similarly limited to myself and the assistant superintendents. Just at this time, the 4 of us. We have had different numbers of assistant superintendents in the past, so we want to strike the number 4. And the person to be directing would be Mr. Klein. So having principal, if there's this serious of a situation that a principal's handling, we don't want them calling Mr. Klein. We want them keeping staff and students safe on campus. And for the principal to activate it, they'd have to call Mr. Klein regardless. So we're here closer to Mr. Klein, who would be able to grant this technical assistance. So it'd be limited to our assistant superintendents and myself. So that's the first sort of tightening of the language. Okay. And the second was 4A, and we struck out without. The Lost Hills will only have access to our footage with our approval. It is a link that Mr. Klein would send to Lost Hills, which he can turn on and off at any time.
Well,
and the rest of
my
it
2
is
questions.
Yes, those are my questions. So this would be an emergency exigent circumstances, not sheriff's deputies watching students going about their day. Okay.
So-
That's a whole different thing for me, right?
This is what we talked about last meeting, because this was the change that wasn't made last time, and I think we all kind of keyed in at the same time. I appreciate the legal write-up, so thanks for sharing that. It still kind of feels like we're in somewhat uncharted territory, not that it's not safe, but we're, as we said, kind of newish doing this, so I appreciate letting us take the time, the 2 weeks to think it through. What I'm still a little unclear on is when it, and sorry if I don't want to over-adjudicate with words, but when it says with prior approval from the district, is it each individual time we have to give approval, or if they got approval 7 months ago for something? So is that clear? And who is, just because the devil's in the details, like how long is the approval for once the link is turned on? Does Mr. Klein get a all clear signal and he turns it off? And could you maybe just spend a minute talking about the technical aspects? Is it a unique link they get each time, or is it a feed that's always, they had the same link every time, but you can kill the feed to their link? So
Generally, we'll send them a link. So the link is going to be the same for each school site when we send it to them, but it's going to be a school site specific link. Okay.
So like they, in their command center, they might have a master link of every school site.
Right.
And if they click at any time, it'll be a dead link unless you throw a switch to activate their connectivity to that link.
Exactly.
You control the link.
We control the link. We've actually been building this system in anticipation of this in the background already. We have a separate monitoring setup here, and we're like this close to the bit where we just have to push a button to open up a link. So we've written the software to link to our firewall directly, and essentially what it'll do is just open a pinhole in the firewall and then send them a notification, whatever mechanism they prefer, that says the Calabasas link is live.
And then just to ask for so it's Dr. Stepanowski and the assistant superintendents have the authority to tell you to do it. If you're not here, it's a Sunday or something like that, and there's something like, do we have the ability to do it remotely? I'm just curious, like, how does this work? Do you
It's
have to
actually
be here
going
at
to
the
be
office?
it's completely accessible remotely. So if I'm not here, actually, any of the assistant superintendents would have access to it as well, and they'd be able to grant them access just by pressing a button on their cell phone.
And then Mr. Starr and your other, I think.
Oh, yeah. The whole tech team.
Your tech engineers have the ability as well, right?
Yeah, they'd have the ability to push the button. They just need authorization.
I would love to just ask for like the first year that we're doing this, if maybe we could get a report every time it's done. Maybe in a Friday letter, just send a note and say, I'm assuming
My
it's not
hope
gonna
is
be
it's never
often,
done.
Right,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
That's my
That's the
hope
goal.
too.
It would be
like-
an extraordinary, right.
But I'd love to just kind of know, if you just include in a Friday letter, it happened and here's what, like we get other campus stuff, that would give us a sense for how often is it happening.
Will do.
And the purpose of this is that if there is a fire, an active shooter, or somebody's on campus who shouldn't be there, and we get notified of it, this allows the sheriff department to go in live and see, we have cameras at every school. They're not in classrooms, they're not in restrooms, they're in public spaces, but it will give the sheriff the ability in real time to know exactly where the person is that is not to be on our campus or a fire. And safety is just a very big priority for us. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
thank you very much. May I have a second?
One more question.
Oh, thank you.
You can have a second. I'll second. Just not trying to wordsmith, but I can read this two ways under definitions. An emergency situation commences when LASD receives a signal, alarm, information, or request from the school district. Is this all from the school district, or this, I'm assuming they could get a signal alarm from somewhere else. Bank was robbed down the corner from the elementary. So I wasn't sure if it meant all of these, signal or alarm from the district, or a general, or I don't know what the word is. And/or a request from the district.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, because it also, it makes it sound like the situation only poses a threat to the district. So the threat of life, safety, health, or property of the district, one might think that you're saying that the life, safety, and health of the district is all those versus like it's a community-wide thing we're giving them access to. In your example, if there's a robbery at a bank on a Saturday when our schools are closed and there's no threat to any of our facilities or our students, they would still probably want access to that footage because it's a community-wide threat. So I agree it was a little.
I don't know what word we could stick in there, but, right.
Sure.
Because even on a school day, we've had this before where there's been an incident in a neighborhood close to a school.
That is our most frequent situation. And it sounds almost silly to say, but it is bank robberies very often, given our proximity to the 101 in the year 2023. And bank robberies and then wildlife, to be honest, bobcat, cow, that kind of thing, have been really our biggest situations.
Well,
The easy fix for yours is just to delete the word from the district and just say an emergency situation commences when LASD receives a signal, alarm, notification, or request that necessitates a response. Just delete of the district.
That actually, I think would do, yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion, but is that all your questions? Anybody else have
Yeah,
questions?
the other two were
Okay.
rectified before.
So I'm going to ask you to modify your motion
I will
to,
make it a motion. I'll make a motion to approve as amended, and that amendment is to strike
and all of these are amended, the highlight ones?
the highlight ones. Yeah.
And this one, right.
This is section A to strike the words or request from the district. Oh, wait a minute. Let's read this again.
Or request.
Well, this is actually, now that I read that a third time, the comma there is saying that the district can request they turn the,
I think it works out, yeah, either way.
Does it need to be stricken?
I don't think so.
Because with the comma there, it's saying.
Right.
Even we can request it as an
Right.
alert, but they
Right.
can also request it separately as an alert if you.
Right.
Well, that's what I
And they
wasn't
do
sure.
now,
Yeah.
so. Okay, so
I'm agnostic, whatever you think you should do.
Was it clear to all of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve with the amendments that were
The
highlighted.
amendments to section C and A. to-
And we have a second from Ms. Gaines. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Here-
sorry.
Oh,
I do
please,
have one quick question.
please.
It talks about parental consent, like written parental consent being needed, except in the case of safety emergencies. I don't know how this, like, how would that relate to this when the memorandum is for safety emergencies? Like, when would it be calling for parental consent then?
Great question, Dr. Stepp. When would there be Ms. Falk? When would there be
Examples of abuse of
Yes.
parental consent?
Yes.
We don't have it often. We will sometimes get requests from parents for our video footage. If there's damage to a vehicle, or a theft of a vehicle. And so, what's that? Fights on campus. So sometimes parents will ask to have access to the footage. If it's a situation where there's damage to their vehicle, then that, could require their consent. Often, since this is covered by FERPA, we have very tight controls over who gets access, so not anyone who asks. But in those kind of circumstances, we might give parents access. Emergency circumstance is going to be, the things described by other board members that really aren't going to apply. This would be a case of something, most likely something happening in the community, something we would trigger. Most likely, it's going to be a request to review footage on the back end. We have a bank robbery, and they are curious if they believe the person ran through the campus or ran by the campus. We've had it at a number of campuses, and they would try to use that, like they would use ring footage to investigate potential crime.
Ms. Walsh, does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
but I have one more,
Good.
which is, what were the exact changes to the contract again, other than those amendments? Because are they made on the memorandum of understanding that's on the agenda, the specific changes, or just in the?
Ms. Falk, were those changes uploaded to the agenda, to the public agenda yet?
They were not. We made them on the dais, and then it will be revised.
Now that, once we approve it, it will be revised.
Okay, and then final question, sorry. And then I know that the fear last time was that the idea of health and safety concern was too broad of a, of wording, but then if you tighten the wording, then it might become dangerous, because what if something doesn't fall into that wording? Were any changes made about that, or is the wording still the same for that part?
I would say my primary concern because I don't know if you get the Friday letter, probably not, right? So there were some addendums you may not have gotten. So I was specifically, as Dr. Stepp said, we're a little ahead of the regional curve. Sheriff's Department is, and kind of asking for this request. We're also probably a little bit unique that we have probably more cameras and better security capabilities than most school districts. We've been investing in this for a while, so our capabilities are more advanced than others. So there wasn't a really well-defined case law definition that I could find anywhere on this. So we asked our lawyer to kind of do a deep dive to see to make sure students' rights were being represented and not inflicted, to make sure our teachers and staff's rights were being represented, because they're being videotaped on campus as well, and to come back to us with what the legal opinion, the current consensus legal opinion is of this. And the consensus legal opinion is, this is new, but we don't see any red flags here. Was that fair? Yeah, so, and I think
the
that
cameras are in public spaces,
Correct.
not in classroom, where there's no
expectation of privacy. Yeah. So that settled at least my concern. And I appreciate that our lawyers took that time to do that.
Thank you. That was all my questions.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll call for the vote. Student, do you approve?
Aye.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That passes. Next is approval of the Altria settlement. Dr. Stepp.
Madam President, members of the board, this one was also a little bit confusing for staff, and may have been confusing for the board as well. We entered into a mass action lawsuit relative to vape companies, specifically Juul. There was a settlement relative to Juul, I want to say, around the $250,000 that the board approved quite some time ago. I think it pays out over 10 years, 8 years, 5 years? Oh, 5 years. Part of that also was Altria, and Altria is the company that owns a number of other corporations. Like it's the larger corporation, and I think this settlement was in $77,000 or so. So this is the conclusion of it, the second piece of it, bringing it before the board. And again, we spent no time on this. We spent no dollars on this. This was brought to us by one of our law partners, F3. They vetted the agency, they interacted with us and supported with us, and we spent considerable and continue to spend considerable resources relative to mitigating vape and tobacco use on our campuses. So this was a relatively positive outcome for us.
So this was, I was confused. This is additive. This is not replacing what
Yes.
we already.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. That's fantastic.
Dr. Gleason, what did I miss?
I just want to underscore and highlight the amount of resources that we've invested in anti-tobacco efforts as it relates to some of the targeted work by tobacco companies with flavored tobacco, with targeted advertising. And of course, those have real impacts on kids in terms of counseling and health impacts, as well as, of course, academic impacts. So we're a party to this lawsuit. The lawsuit did not require any resources, but certainly the thing that the lawsuit is going against certainly puts a lot of burden on school districts to support kids who have been targeted by the tobacco companies.
Thank you very much. So I want to reiterate that, again, no district funds went to joining this lawsuit, or both of these. No district time, other than to discuss with our attorneys whether we should be part of this mass action lawsuit. So thank you. This is a real issue for teenagers today, for young people. It's a real concern, and we appreciate that. So with that, any other questions, comments?
You should sign on to these every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I mean,
Right.
it's a no-brainer and brings in revenue to the district, so. it works.
Absolutely. So with that, I will ask for a motion. I don't think we have a
So
motion
moved.
yet. Okay, and a second, great. Student, do you approve?
Aye.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Thank you. Next is information items. We're going to start with a Center for Educational Excellence. We're going to get an update from that, Dr. Stepp, because we have some of our wonderful employees here with us to share.
Madam President, members of the board, very excited to share our information on the Center at X. We've got, as Ms. Stein mentioned, some of our outstanding staff who will be presenting with us as well. I wanted to get them home as soon as possible. But the Center of X, the credentialing program, is one of a kind in the state for a public school district, has been a tremendous support for our students in that it's been a great pipeline of leadership and credentialed teachers, and now the most recent addition being our TK permits and credentials for our 4-year-old students who are joining our campuses. So we are signed on, I think, with 20 or so districts who are partners as well. So this has really helped provide a pipeline of talent into our district, and some of that talent will be speaking with us tonight. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, always fun to bring updates on Center edX. It is, as the board knows very well, this board does, but for the communities, as part of our accreditation with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, we need to provide regular updates to the local governing board about our student outcomes, which are adult student outcomes in this case, as well as our fiscal oversight. So if we go to the next slide, which I have power for. There we are. So yeah, back in 2017, after a year and a half effort, this seems like just yesterday, Dan was only 22 in this picture, we launched Center edX, and there's that for ribbon cutting, and so much has happened since. The board has been recognized, as we'll talk about later, with a Golden Bell Award for their leadership in pioneering this unique credential program. When we launched this, of course, this board was very involved in that, but for the community, this was not meant to be a money maker, and certainly was not meant to have a negative impact on the budget. But we are looking out across the horizon for the state and seeing that there is a real opportunity if we can get involved in credentialing to influence student achievement. Up here is a research slide from the large meta-analysis of student research that exists from John Hattie, and it suggests that the impact of the teacher is the most important, impactful influence on student learning that is in our control, followed second by the principal. And California has a 2-tiered credentialing program for both teachers and for administrators. So this gives us 3 years the opportunity to engage in 3 years with our teachers and 3 years with our administrators. And thus, for anyone who starts in this district as a teacher and becomes an administrator, that's 6 years of preparation that can have significant influence on kids. California, statewide, teacher shortages are a thing. They are getting worse. And so one of the reasons we launched Center edX was to create a deep bench of teacher and administrator candidates who are eligible to serve our schools. And at the time, this board really, we did a lot of research, a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth, because we didn't know how a school district credential program would land. And now we are 6 years ahead. And that brings us to this map of the state of California, and every star shows you where we currently have students in our, and you can see we're a great breadth across the South, but I'm going to turn it over to our program coordinators, Miss Valerie Louthian, and our newest program coordinator and support, Miss Jessie Sweeney.
Madam President, members of the board, always a pleasure to talk about Center for Educational Excellence. This year, we have 28 teachers currently enrolled in our teacher induction program, and some of which are going to speak about that today. We have 43 aspiring administrators in our PASC program. We have 3 current cohorts right now, and then 48 current administrators in our CASC program, which is huge from years past. One of my favorite passion projects was our ECE certificate program, which is currently enrolling 53 teachers. Overall, we've already impacted 111 teachers statewide. So next slide. We'll talk more about micro-credentials later. And then, as you all know, we were recognized with the Golden Bell Award last year for our innovative programming. And I think it really speaks to currently when we're seeing those applications coming in, people hearing about how wonderful the program is and wanting to join us to become educators, administrators, and better ECE teachers.
Madam President, members of the board, our teacher induction program currently serves 28 teachers. We have 2 full-time coaches, one of whom is here tonight, and their role is to ensure success and support for our teachers in their first 2 years. The goal of our program is to increase student achievement through teacher efficacy and longevity. At this time, I'd like to introduce Christy Kaufman to come up and speak about teacher induction.
Thank you and welcome.
Of course, for the community, Miss Christy Kaufman is one of our full-time coaches when we shifted to the model. She is our senior coach and has served with us now for, I mean, in terms of tenure, of course. And she served with us, I think this is her 3rd year.
My cane is behind the chair. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Stepanowski and cabinet, thank you for the opportunity to share an update on a program that means so much to our new teachers in LVUSD. I am Christy Kaufman, the geriatric, and I am here with one of our teacher induction candidates, Casey Kuznetsky. I was lucky enough to share information with the board 2 years ago when we were first kind of dipping our toe and easing our way into the new model of having full-time release coaches for our induction candidates. And it was an immensely refreshing model to have dedicated time with our candidates each week, which we spoke about last time. We get to truly become a part of their classroom communities. The time allows us to build relationships and the trust to become a safe space for them as they grow their practice to best serve our students. Since we last met, we have had 67 candidates participate in induction within LVUSD, as well as neighboring districts, Woodland Hills, West Hills, and all the way out to not-so-neighboring Lancaster. Over the past 2 years, our goals remain rooted in cultivating reflective practices among our new teachers with the end goal of retaining great educators for our students. We know that 30% of teachers leave our profession within the first 5 years, but with smart retention strategies such as feedback, recognition, reflection, and resources, we can decrease that number. Holding triads with our candidates' principals provides the opportunity to recognize a candidate's strengths and align our induction work to the goals of the school and the district for the year. By taking our candidates on instructional rounds and observing colleagues, we're facilitating connections and supports and resources in addition to their on-site grade level teams. In every survey we give, it is a resounding request that we have more instructional rounds. I truly believe that teaching is a team sport and that we are better together. By creating a regional collaboration group that we meet with 4 times a year, consisting of members from the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, Santa Clarita, and the Partnership to Uplift Communities, we are able to share best practices in regards to our induction programs and the support we're providing for our candidates. It feels pretty amazing to know that 5 counties of students are being impacted by teachers supporting one another. In last year's end of survey completed by the induction candidates, 100% of the candidates surveyed reported that they felt supported throughout the induction process. And possibly the greatest indicator of success is that 100% also reported that they felt prepared to move forward in their next steps of their teaching practice. So the greatest example of the benefit of our instructional model is to hear it directly from a candidate. So I give you Casey Kuznetsky.
Yay, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Casey Kuznetsky, and I am currently teaching performing arts at both Lupin Hill and White Oak Elementary Schools, and I am also in year 2 of induction. My situation is actually a little bit unique. I'm not a brand new teacher, but for various reasons, I never cleared my credential. So even with my previous years of teaching experience, this program has been the biggest support for me as an LVUSD teacher. It is truly why I've been so successful thus far. Induction is teaching me how to be a self-efficient, lifelong learner because it's such a personalized experience. We spend a lot of time together. It's truly tailored just for me, by me, with the guidance of Christy, of course. I am learning thoughtful and productive, reflective practices. I'm not being told what I'm doing wrong or what I need to be doing better. I'm allowed ownership of my goals. I'm able to be real with myself and really identify what I need to work on, and I know I have the support to do that. So instead of being left insecure and feeling scrutinized by people coming in and watching me teach, I feel confident and capable, and I'm empowered to grow as an educator, and it's truly because it's my work. It's my goals, so I'm very passionate about the work I'm putting in. Instead of pressure, I have complete support. Exactly what every teacher, new or old, needs to survive. It's really tough out there, and to be honest, it just keeps getting harder every single year. The more support a teacher has, the better off we are, but most importantly, the better off our students are. At the end of the day, it's all about what's best for kids, right? They say it takes a village, and it does for us teachers too. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. And Mrs. Menges and I had an opportunity to see you in action at Lupin Hill. And boy, are you amazing with children. But you said exactly what everybody wants to hear, who's being coached in any job, especially in teaching. That is wonderful. You want to feel safe and secure and not judged in a negative way. So that is wonderful. This really, truly is just a spectacular program that keeps getting better and better.
It is the way in which they do the program that gives me the confidence to grow as an educator.
And that's wonderful. That is very nice to hear. Thank you.
And in the state of California, 50%, not in Las Virgenes, but California overall, 50% of teachers leave the profession within 5 years. And so longevity as well as efficacy
It's
are
just
such an
terrible.
important focus, and
Yeah.
really appreciate the investment in full-time coaches to support.
Yes, absolutely.
But wait, there's more, because that's just our first program. So Ms.
Wow.
Sweeney or Ms. Louthian?
It's hard to follow that, to be
It
honest.
is, right?
But I can speak a little bit about our PASC program. So we are currently enrolling our 15th cohort
Wow.
of our preliminary administrative services credential program. Like I mentioned earlier, we currently have 3 cohorts that go through the year. We have a June start, August start, and a January start, making it the most enrolled PASC program in the region. And as you know, our wonderful administration team is a testament to the work that we do at Center at X. 8 out of 9 of our elementary principals have either been a candidate or a faculty member of Center at X, and our secondary principals also. And all of our assistant principals in our secondary, or all across the secondary programs, have either been a candidate or a faculty member of Center at X. So it's really speaking to just the goals of the program is inspiring leaders and to continue their leadership in different ways as well, so that they're coaching aspiring leaders themselves.
And it's wonderful, Ms. Luthien, if I can add, that it's wonderful to have now all of these candidates from all over the state of California, because they get to learn from each other and brainstorm with each other and bring in their own experiences from other districts. So.
Yeah.
And then our CASC program. So our CASC program has the goal of providing new administrators with the skills, dispositions, and mindsets so that they can be successful in their new roles. It's a 2-year program. It really focuses on coaching, goal setting, and student achievement. Center at X has its own coaching model. These guides have been research developed. They are in line with requirements from the CTC, and they are specifically unique to Center at X.
This is my baby program. This is the Early Childhood Certificate Program, and I'm really proud of our reach in terms of our partner districts. As we previously mentioned, 20 districts have signed on to our MOU regarding our $2 million grant that we received last year. And since then, we've worked with 111 different educators from across the state to fulfill the needs for universal transitional kindergarten and the requirements for 24 ECE units. Recently, I sent out a survey to our alumni, because we've already had 4 cohorts finish the program, and it was overwhelming in terms of how much we've supported and prepared them for our littlest learners in all of their districts. And we continue to do that work. We still have 4 more districts right now, and we're 4 more cohorts right now, and we're going to enroll 1 more in January. So we're really doing a lot of impact there.
And the state put their faith in Las Virgenes and Center at X when they issued us a $2 million grant that Ms. Louthian had authored to serve the state in meeting a very steep preparation requirement. And so really an acknowledgement of the foundation that this board has established. And there's one more. Oh, wait, no, there's 2. Thanks.
So we have all those amazing programs already, so why not try another? So we've been working really hard in trying to launch our special education program. It is our first preliminary credential program. We noticed and recognized the teacher shortage for students with special needs, and you can see from the slide, 65% of California special education teachers don't have that credential. And we recognize that here in the district, and we know that we can really serve aspiring educators to acquire this credential and to serve the needs of all students. The design of the program is really an accelerated one. We are providing evening classes. It's all virtual, really thinking about the working professional who want to get this credential. There's going to be coursework and student teaching involved, as well as all candidates would need to pass, which is, for every preliminary credential program, an assessment. So specific to this will be the teacher performance assessment. And our team is ready, willing, and able to support that as long as the CTC sees our proposal fit and gives us that accreditation. Candidates who enroll in this program will need to have their bachelor's degree to be eligible, and we're currently exploring a classified employee teacher credentialing grant to support aspiring special educators.
All right, and just to highlight, it has taken 2.5 years to get accreditation for this preliminary teaching credential program. So even though there's a statewide shortage, the state is very, very rigorous in terms of accreditation of programs. Ms. Louthian has met with the commission a lot. And then micro-credentials.
So our micro-credential program, we have had over 330 educators and staff go through our program. Currently, we have classes this fall that our staff are partaking in. These micro-credentials, afford educators the opportunity to grow and expand their skill set and efficacy. And the demand is high, and we hope to keep offering these classes every semester.
That's amazing. 330?
Yeah.
Wow. 330. Miss Chambers and Miss Gottfried Ullman put this program together, and it is at extraordinary growth, but also is very, very much aligned to the goals of the district. Underscoring that this is all about credential and licensure.
Yeah.
The impact of being able to have this much time with educators is a very significant responsibility that will have a great breadth in terms of overall achievement. In terms of fiscal impacts, this is net profit. After operating costs, we anticipate about $748,000 between the cost offset of teacher induction of having to serve the candidates elsewhere. Our CASC program has grown 300% in a year with a strong LA Unified input. And we now have 3 pass cohorts. So remember when we started with we started with a January, never thinking we would do January and August. And now we have to do January, August, and June and have a waiting list to meet with the demand. ECE, the profit margin is actually smaller than if we charge tuition because it's grant funded. So it's really a cost offset, but a real service not only to LVUSD, but also the broader statewide community. Anything that puts us as a very unique beacon in the state, attracts top talent here, and that, of course, has a compounding effort. So certainly these credential programs, this was not about how can we make $750,000. This is all about quality professional development, but it's getting big. And when the SPED program launches this June, it will necessitate continued growth. The infrastructure that we have is standing behind the dais right now, and many university programs have staffed 10 times that. So Ms. Chambers, excuse me, I do this with Hallenville all the time, I apologize. Ms. Louthian and Ms. Sweeney, as well as Ms. Kaufman, Ms. Jamal, will be moving into, we're remodeling the downstairs to create a whole wing for Center edX, which should be open in a week or 2. And with all that, there's a picture of our very first cohort and of PASC. And you can see this is the wall of the district office leading to the new Center edX department. I put a picture of cohort 1 on there because there's many faces on there that we now know as seasoned administrators. And if Ashley Winter is watching from North Carolina right now, shout out to her for all her hard work in helping get this off the ground. With that, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments?
If we could go back one slide while the board contemplates questions. And so when we say, $750,000, that's really a revenue stream, and that goes right into programs supporting our students.
Right.
90% of all of our funding is staff. Right. The other 10% is maintenance of our buildings. So this is a tremendous support for our students. I mean, just on teachers alone, that's probably 9 teachers.
Mm-hmm. So this is net our costs for staff to run the program?
This is the net return to the general fund after cost.
After cost for staffing the program.
That's right.
And this is annual?
Yeah, this is annual, and this does not include the new special education teacher credentialing program, which should net another $100,000 per cohort. Even still, and it's important to say this because we've said this, the board knows this chapter and verse. Our tuition is a third to a fourth the cost of the university for the same credential. So it also provides greater equity and access. So we didn't do it to make money, but the money is essential for the growth and expansion to be able to ensure we have the right staff and the right quantity of staff to provide that quality preparation for teachers and administrators.
Are we doing anything, or forgive me if I should know this, do we have a counseling program as well for counseling credentials, or whatever?
We don't have a counseling program for credentials. Right now, counselors are higher supply than demand. Mm-hmm. And so in terms of serving the areas of highest need, that would not be up there. I'd say if we ever needed to pursue another venture, which we don't. In fact, we took a year. We actually delayed after a couple key resignations last year. We delayed a year on launching the SPED program so we could focus on our core mission. So we don't have the bandwidth, but career technical ed is probably the next area in Frontier.
Thank you.
This was a wonderful presentation. This is very exciting. And thank you all for your leadership and all that you're doing and experiencing and giving your feedback to each other and our coaches and everything else. And we're very appreciative. And I do have to give a special shout out to Dr. Gleason because this was his idea.
His vision.
And your vision for us. And we just came right along. And
We didn't push back at all.
I'm sorry, who is laughing? So
I think they did. They're such humble, wonderful people. I think they did leave something out. I think CSBA may have recognized this program with an award.
That's right,
And board members also presented.
well,
Oh, good sir.
There was a slide.
There is a slide, Dr.
Yeah,
Stepp. If
there
I
was a
wouldn't mind to take the remote backwards. I want the record to reflect.
We don't need to repeat it. Move along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it is really important. And you can see on the slide, one more. No, it's backwards.
No, yeah. It's okay. It's
Anyway, Ms. Stein and Ms. Cuppill last year actually along with Dr. Stepp. There you can see them presenting to an audience of university faculty and school districts, and I was an interesting audience in terms of opinions on school districts being involved in licensure and credentialing in the future. I'd say many got it, and then it's also safe to say that there were several university folks that felt very threatened by it. But practitioner level development is really the experiment we have here. With the greatest of respect to higher ed and universities, they serve such an important role, of course, and this is not taking away from anything that they do. All of our faculty, Ms. Kaufman, are in classrooms and schools every single day, and there's been a lot of changes over the last few years. So to be able to talk about those in a contemporary setting, I think provides our candidates with a very unique preparation. So there is a big bell, and if you've never held onto it, it does ring, and it is loud.
and it's heavy and it's out in the entranceway. So if it's missing, we know who's here, but it's out there if you want to see it. Thank you. And no, it really is exciting because this, as you said very eloquently, this is all about students and what's doing the best for students, right? Having the best teachers in place, the best administrators in place, and the practicum that is offered is just so visionary. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to a very exciting topic, math.
All right.
Madam President, members of the board, excited again to be spending time on student achievement, poring over data. Appreciate the time Ms. Stein and Mr. Lawrence have put into this as well, meeting with data working groups. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on some of our math data. I suppose the positive is CASP has been around for about 7 or so years, founded in 2014. I think there were 2 years we didn't do it during the pandemic, so we have 7 years of data on CASP. Our results have been, across all grade levels, mostly flat, mostly consistently even. So the positive is we did not experience, as much as the country, a pandemic dip or a real drop down. But on the other side of that is we didn't experience growth. And our expectation, of course, is growth and increased student scores. So there's the positive and the negative. We haven't gone down. We haven't nearly met our expectations for growth and improvement among our students and their academic achievement. So we have the three musketeers, the three amigos, Ms. Patterson, Ms. Davenport, and Dr. Roberts, all working together hard on student achievement and poring over this sort of data. The three of them present regularly at our data student sessions, and we have 2 of them here tonight. I think just 2 of them here tonight to share on our math data, and we appreciate your hard work on this.
Thank you, Dr. Stepp. Well said. Madam President, members of the board, each year the LVSD students in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11 participate in the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, very fondly known as the CASP. So Ed Services and our data committee have reviewed and analyzed student achievement scores from the spring 2023 administration in mathematics. And tonight, Ms. Patterson and I would like to share some broad takeaways from this year's data and important next steps to improve student achievement. So in this chart, we present a summary of the district data by grade levels. So on the left, as a percentage, and on the right by the number of students in each grade level. As far as the legend, the orange represents the percentage or number of students who did not meet the standard. That's the orange. The yellow represents students who nearly met the standard. The green, students who met the standard, and the blue, students who exceeded the standard. So in short, the more green and blue, the better. Our overall takeaways from that data include knowing very firmly that LVUSD scores continue to exceed the state averages. 55% of students in the LVUSD meet or exceed state standards, while only 33% of students in California achieved at that same level. Secondly, the score trends for our district are similar to that of the state as far as grade levels are concerned. Student achievement scores generally being the highest when our students are the youngest and taking the test for the first time at grade 3, and then decreasing each year. The most significant decreases occur in 6 through 8, but the actual slide begins in 5th grade, where on average for LVUSD, we end 4th grade with 68% of our students proficient, and by the end of 5th grade, our students are heading off into middle school. 56% of them are proficient at that point. And I will turn it over to Ms. Patterson for a moment to continue with some overall broad strokes taken away. Thank you.
When would you like us to ask some specific questions on levels? As we go along, or?
That's fine, whatever's.
So if you're seeing a drop-off in 5th grade, what is elementary school? I know, right, this year, we have a focus on math this year for many reasons that I know you're going to talk about.
Can I suggest maybe finish
For-
3 minutes? Because
Sure.
I think it'd be good to give
Okay.
the macro
Okay.
presentation, and
And then we'll get, okay.
dig in.
Especially
Okay.
as it pertains to next steps.
Yeah.
We'll-
Okay.
We'll absolutely go there, so. All right, Ms. Patterson.
All right, thank you. So despite various efforts, the 2023 LVUSD scores across all grade levels represent levels that have remained steady for the last 7 years. By 11th grade, the last year of state testing, less than half of LVUSD students are meeting state proficiency in math, and this represents as many as 500 students each year across our 2 high schools. Last year, we had quite a bit of conversation around participation, and so the chart you're looking at now shows all of our schools on the left, the grade levels that we assess students in the middle, and then the spring 2022 opt-out percent as compared to the spring 2023 opt-out percent. And as you can see,
This is huge. Yes, this is great.
Very.
we were very pleased that the board was very direct that you would like all students to participate, and I'm really thrilled with the high school participation. I would also note, we previously thought or considered the idea that the grade 11 scores might have been negatively impacted by academically strong students opting out of the test, but this past year's data indicates that this is most likely not the case, or not the case for the majority of the students.
That was a very important takeaway indicated by our participation rates. We'd like to just take a look at some of our subgroups here in LVUSD, and the trends that we notice for English learners in our district remain similar to previous years. Students who reclassify as fluent and English proficient in the early years are more successful in meeting grade level standards in math. By the 7th grade, EL students who are newcomers or remain as long-term English learners, LTELs, they struggle with the language skills needed to meet math proficiency often. But by the 11th grade, we have very few EL students taking the test. The score trends for LVUSD students identified as low socioeconomic status also remain similar to previous years, and similar trends there. So compared to all students in the district, students who are low SES are about 15 to 20% less likely to meet or exceed the math standards.
We didn't have this slide at the last one, so I appreciate
We
being
did,
able
we
to see
just
it.
didn't get to discussing it at the data committee.
Yeah, but I appreciate it, because I know we had some of the, so Have we been able to, can I ask this, this is more of a tactical question on this one.
Sure.
Have we been able to do any deduplication to understand the overlap? Is the reason why this is so high for low SES because they're English language learners disproportionately, and therefore it's the English language, or is it because, or is the causality? I know it's hard to point to causality. I'm just wondering if we've really narrowed in on if you're English proficient and SES, are you likely to be more proportionately troubled in math, or do you kind of hold steady with the whole group? Do we know?
We can certainly do more of that analysis and have looked at it in the past. If we go back to the EL slide, the representation, one of the reasons we did the number of students is so you can immediately see, if you look at 8th grade English learners and
9
math overall,
students.
that the number of students,
Okay, that's
correct, are very small, so they cannot proportionately be impacting the SES numbers in any significant way, although it would have a nominal impact, perhaps.
That answers my question. So,
Thank you for bringing that up.
So both of these are causing it, are causal agents of it. Okay, thanks.
Correct. The last subpopulation that we'll look at is special education students, and again, similar to previous years in our district and statewide, as special ed students progress through the grade levels, it becomes increasingly challenging to meet or exceed the math standards. And it is by the 11th grade, again, students are struggling with higher level maths and meeting proficiency in those levels.
A question regarding special ed, are there any populations that are exempt from the same requirements, or is my general knowledge, Ms. Falk, is that they're not,
So our
state's not
students-
very giving on students with some definite disabilities?
Right. So our students who are the mod severe students don't take the CASP. They take the California Alternative Assessment. And those would be typically the students on the certificate of completion track. Our diploma kids typically always take the CASP.
Also, board members have expressed an interest in our performance compared to other districts, and it's always hard to say what would be a comparable district. And that, so these are adjacent districts, and some of them are somewhat comparable in certain ways. But I would argue that we could take any of these districts and pick ways where they may not be discretely comparable. That said, this chart shows you for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 11th, the grades that we assess for CASP, our district, compared to Oak Park, Conejo, Santa Monica, La Cañada, Manhattan Beach, and the state average. And as you can see, several districts with similar demographics are maintaining higher scores than us, particularly by the 11th grade, and also in some of the key middle school grades that we're most concerned about, areas where we do believe we can have improvement.
I thought this was particularly interesting, and I appreciate that you're having conversations with some of your peers at these schools, because one is an anomaly, but when you start to see 2 or 3 that are consistently across the board, like Oak Park, La Cañada, Manhattan Beach, all 3 being higher than us across every grade, it starts to become, are they each
Well, one
doing
is a
something?
district of choice, so they basically get to pick their students. So I
But the other 2
reject
aren't.
that.
But the other 2 aren't. That's why,
Right, the other
that's why
2
we have to be really careful about
Right.
picking one and rejecting it. So when you see 3 of them, and they're all 3 higher than us across all the scores and every year, it's great to be able to then reach out and say, have those conversations that you're having to see, is it a curriculum they picked? Is it professional development they've leaned into? So that doing an assessment like this is not so much for us to feel bad about our neighbors, or it's to say, is there something that they may have unlocked in their trial and error consistently across the board? So this is not an easy task, and I appreciate, because I know they don't give you the data in nice, neat buckets like this. But I appreciate you doing the effort to dig in with the neighboring districts.
Certainly.
And is it a fair assessment or takeaway from this as we're looking at it? We've heard so much in the news about the COVID slide. So looking at this the past 7 years, or how many years is up there, it does not appear that Las Virgenes had a COVID slide. Our scores have been pretty consistent.
They
across
have
the
been
board.
very consistent.
And I think that is very interesting. I mean, that says a lot about what our teachers and students were doing, remotely during COVID.
And notable.
Right, thank you.
Agreed. So going forward, again, we have, compared to the state average, we have strong scores. We are interested in how we continually move the goal for our students and how we support our teachers to take our students as far as we possibly can. So we have, one of the concerns is always that we give our teachers the very best materials. And as we looked at other districts, they all in the last few years and after the standards were adopted have gone through various materials. So we've entered into those conversations with our teachers. The current K-12 pilot of Imagine Learning Illustrative Math is creating those meaningful conversations around effective teaching and learning in our classrooms. Elementary and secondary math adoption committees are continuing the work of reviewing highly rated materials to select a standards-aligned curriculum to adopt. Also, ongoing training is provided in the instructional shifts that engage students in problem-based learning. We had a lot of opportunity to do that elementary, middle school, and high school yesterday. Math teachers across the district are participating in professional development opportunities at staff development days all of this year and into next year. We're also really plunging into ongoing training and increasing the use of the CASP interim assessment blocks, focused interim assessment blocks, and the interim comprehensive assessments so that teachers can monitor student progress and targeted areas of concern. This will also give students exposure and practice with the testing format and will lead to a more comfortable testing experience each spring. I also wanted to remind you that the PSAT experience that our 10th graders and 11th graders experienced this morning and tomorrow morning, that platform, the Blue Book PSAT platform, is very similar to the CASP and will also give us some really great data for our 10th and 11th graders. 10th grade is a gap year in terms of having a major assessment for our students. Also, the district is onboarding PowerSchool, which will provide teachers with a dashboard to easily see formative and summative student testing data to inform targeted instruction in a timely manner. Also, the high schools are proposing a new bell schedule that will allow for increased professional development and staff collaboration time for our teachers to refine instructional practices in math and every other content area.
Thank you. We've really appreciated the board's input and guidance in looking at data, addressing data, and making sure that we are responding with actionable steps to improve student achievement.
This is terrific, thank you. Is there any questions or comments? This is part of our core mission.
I'll just share a couple. The first is I am so grateful for your work to do a couple things. It's very, I think, somewhat, I don't want to say it's unique. I think it's uniquely LVUSD, but I'm sure other school districts do it. I think there can be a real temptation sometimes to give in to the soft bigotry of low expectations in some districts where they think these kids are low, they're never going to move up, or they're SES and they're stuck here, or even these kids are already 80%, we can't move them up higher. And I think, you know, Ms. Patterson, you've talked about that we think there's room for everybody to move up incrementally. If you're already at the top, we think you can move up, and if you're at the bottom. So I really appreciate the fact that you have left no stone unturned. I also appreciate what I think is just a very honest presentation that says that we have been on a generational flatline in math. The whole state has been, but so have we. And we're not the whole state. We're an exceptional district with exceptional students, and we expect more of ourselves. And I think that the teachers expect more of themselves. They feel it. The staff does. You do. So I haven't met anyone in this process who has said, "Don't talk about that over there. Let's keep that hidden." There's been a real discovery process to say it's time to overturn everything and see what we can discover to move forward. So I am incredibly grateful for that effort. I'm sure it's ruffled some. I'm sure it isn't always comfortable being the one who's turning over rocks. So and looking, but I think it's hugely important that you do that. I think that the second thing that really we didn't talk about that I really, and is it okay if I call it A, right? We talked. I'm going to call it the example. I think there sometimes can be a sense of hopelessness when you see math scores that haven't moved in 7 years despite a lot of efforts on our part. But then through the efforts that we've done, we've really uncovered these pockets at You Right and a couple other places where there have been some targeted interventions that have really moved the needle substantively. So this is not a hopeless cause where we just can't. But maybe could you spend a minute or two unpacking that a little bit more?
We would love to, and I just want to acknowledge, just hot on the heels of the conversation and the presentation from Ed Excellent, this is a district with a lot of astonishing practice, where there is a lot of courage and a lot of energy to think about what can we build, what can we do, and I know that Dr. Gleason was instrumental in getting that going. And so what I would say is what was really clear in our staff development yesterday is we have a lot of positive teacher energy to take this to the next level. And last year, when we worked in the middle schools to encourage teachers to use interim assessments, and they could see the practical nature in which it informed their instruction and the way that it dovetailed with the state assessment and how important the standards are and how important it was to align their teaching so that they did indeed cover those standards and that those standards are rigorous and include the mathematical practices that we want our students to have to be ready for college and career. The middle school math teachers really rose up to those expectations. And they were kind of the early harbingers of doing this work. And I would say they're the most vibrant learning community that we have. Their room was just abuzz with energy yesterday, and they've really rolled up their sleeves. And it's a lot of work to do this. So I think that, kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, that this work that has happened with PASC and CASC is also has us prepared to take on something like this, where we have kids overall who are very successful, and we would like to go even further.
So I have a couple of quick questions. I'm curious, I've heard for reading, and I know this is a math study, that reading at or above grade level by third grade is very important for moving forward. Is there something like that in the math field, that you need to be at or above grade level by a certain grade?
I think that trend that we're seeing that begins in 5th grade is really a key pivot point. Students really have developed a mindset about their own feelings towards math at that point, and go in with either great confidence or the lack thereof as they head into middle school, and that transition year is important. So I don't know that what the research is exactly, but from experience, certainly, I would call out that 5th grade as pivotal in math, the same way that 3rd grade is for ELA and reading.
I know that we have the new Power School dashboard, which will be very helpful to the teachers in analyzing the data, so that some guru doesn't have to be making it look
correct,
analyzed for them. But what about the CASP interim assessment blocks? Is that new this year, or was it?
Those are available for math and for ELA. However, they are not available for science yet, for the CAST. And it takes quite a bit of teacher training and skill to choose when you will administer an interim assessment, to choose which block or to choose the exact frame that you'll use, and then to take the time, the collaborative time, to look at the results together, to think about where do we need to spiral in this math instruction, what other resource might we need to use. And so a couple of things are happening. I think we're refining how we use our collaboration time, both at the middle schools and the high schools, to think about giving teachers that focused time. As well as, and I'll let Ms. Davenport speak to this, as well as making sure that our teachers are trained on how to choose and use the assessments.
We started that work yesterday.
Thank you so much.
So we know that this is multi-pronged as we look at math and we improve our math scores, improve our math instruction. We're looking at new adoptions. This year right now, some of our math teachers, K-12, are piloting an adoption right now. And so we're looking forward to that feedback and where that goes. Interim assessments, Power Schools, professional development, math conferences. We're sending teachers to math conferences. So it's terrific that we're having this really laser focus on our math and really our math instruction, and making sure that our materials are aligned to the state standards.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say I appreciate all of this, and I appreciate the work that the two of you are doing in breaking this down more in the data committee.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And I owe a mea culpa on this committee. As I recall,
You're actually going to say this out loud? Wait, on camera. Wait, everybody. Wait, hold it.
several months ago, I was.
Wait, the acorn just left. I can get Iman back.
He's here. Iman is here.
at that.
Iman.
No, I had never served on this committee. I did not see the intrinsic deep value of what we do, and I will say it's probably the most important work I've done in the 11 years I've been on the board. So, Ms. Stein, write down the date and time of the meeting.
No, but I am.
You were categorically correct. Ms. Keppel, you were right too, so I'll let you take one too. No, but
No, but it is. You're right.
Let him finish.
Right.
Wait,
There's
let him
more?
finish.
There's more?
Yes,
Okay.
let him finish. Mrs. Cutbill and I have been beaten up on camera at 2 January meetings. Last meeting,
I want to hear this,
before.
though.
Keep going,
No,
Mr.
no,
Lawrence.
I appreciate the work. I really do. And I meant what I said earlier, that I think there are probably a lot of other people in your position that would not be as comfortable opening the kimono as much to the board, to their community, to their teachers. Look, I mean, I think these are big numbers.
Yes.
And what I love when I see, nobody in the room is sitting there happy with these numbers. But nobody is also there wrenching their hands saying there's nothing we can do about it. And I think that the things we're going to be seeing from the unprecedented potential support for staff development, unprecedented level that we're investing, is a sign that we're listening to our teachers and staff, and we understand that changing the way you teach anything, but perhaps math more than almost anything else, is a massive undertaking. But I think we also all agree at the same time that with Einstein's definition of insanity, right, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different outcome, does not work.
We have to have conversations about the reality of where we are, and now that we're, putting more mileage, on the shutdowns, that we can have these to move these forward and all the different things that we can do. So
thank you.
Well,
very much.
that
I do
is-
appreciate. No, but it is very important work that you're doing here, that we're taking a look, and we cannot, you cannot change a problem with the same level of thinking which created it. So that we're open to a lot of different ways to go after this is.
Thank you. That is the most important point here, is the math and student success, right? But I want to back it up, roll it back a minute.
Let it go.
So, Mr. Lawrence,
No.
you are actually saying on camera that you see the value in rotating committees. So, thank you for actually apologizing to Ms. Cupbill and myself and the board and the district for
let it go.
No, I'm not
Can't-
letting
she
it
can't
go.
let it go. She can't let it go.
So, thank you for
I'm
your
happy to
apology.
be the bigger person, yes.
Thank you for your apology, and thank you for seeing the wisdom of our ways, of the value
now
of
we're-
sitting on
now-
all committees
now
to
she's
learn about the
extrapolating.
district. So,
Might be going a little too far.
That's right.
so with that, let's get back to math. Any more?
I do have a
comments
question.
or
How often
questions?
is your data committee meeting? Just, I'm curious. How
About
often are
once
you-
a month, maybe?
month,
Yeah, our next deep dive is our next data dive is going to be English language arts CASP scores. We're going to be getting into DF after the first semester, and we're also, Mr. Lawrence and I, because he so graciously loves his new committees, is sitting on pathways as well, and we have a pathways meeting tomorrow, and a lot of this is also discussed at the pathways level. So we get a lot of different ways to discuss this. We will be bringing this back to the board. We will be having math check-ins throughout the year, because this.
I think what feels different to me is, at
Yeah.
least from my perspective, is you can't fix the sickness if you haven't diagnosed it first.
Right.
And I think that we are really acknowledging the fact that something's structurally not working the way it could probably be at best. And there should be, and we're putting everything in it to figure out. And I think that is what feels fresh to me, is that it's not that we are victims of circumstances because we couldn't tell during COVID what was happening, because it was just COVID, or we couldn't tell because it was at the curriculum. We now recognize there's something that we can do here. I think that I feel very empowered by that we're coming at it from the approach of we're not victims of this, we have the ability to make some generational change. So thank you.
I also want to back it up in a different way, not at you, Mr. Lawrence, in
my
a
God.
different way. And a couple of years ago, our middle school math scores at Mariposa, I think, were in the 90% or 100%. I mean, their math scores were out of this world. And when you looked at it, their curriculum was aligned with the new standards. So that, I agree with you, Mr. Lawrence. This is going to be a huge piece of this from what we know and we've been seeing. So with that, any other comments or questions?
No?
Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
and
Madam President, I would, Madam President, members of the board, I would request that we adjourn, as we do sometimes, to closed session.
Okay.
Just to finish some of the business
Yes.
with that.
Okay.
That's true.
I know
We have-
Greg's got to pack up, so that could take a little while. So if the assistant superintendents could join the board members in my office, we could
Okay, we're going
knock
to
out a few
adjourn to
things and,
closed session. Thank you.